clearly and succinctly. And you can go whenever you feel like it.
Okay. I am writing my story of life in the country by Aldred Oleson, written about 1929. I am one of 9 children born to Walter and Pearl Aldred. We lived on the eastern slope on a farm in Avondale, Colorado. My mother and dad were hard-working farmers. I had a wonderful childhood, and I do believe my brothers and sisters would say the same in that regard. I remember a lot of fun and good times. We were blessed with a big family of our own and a lot of cousins. One family in particular, Mother's brother's family, Aunt Ray and Uncle Vess, had 3 boys and 2 girls, Carolyn and Frances. I remember the girls better than the boys. Uncle Vess lived in Fowler, about 20 miles east of Avondale. We spent a lot of time with them. Either our family went to Fowler on Sunday for the day, or my uncle's family came to Avondale. The one time I remember so well was when Mom cooked fried chicken, mashed potatoes, peas, corn, gravy, and hot biscuits for dinner. Before dinner, our cousins, Carolyn and Frances, changed clothes with me and my twin sisters, Mickey and Dutch. When Mom was mashing the potatoes, a finger went into the bowl. My mother looked up and saw Mickey's sleeve and smacked her a good one. It turned out to be our cousin Carolyn. This is just one of the many happy times. I had another favorite, my dad's sister, Aunt Rye and Uncle Johnny. My Uncle Johnny didn't like me, but Aunt Rye and I hit it off real well. I spent a lot of time at their home. She had 2 children older than me, Ione and Edward. Ione was a beauty operator. In those days they had Marcel irons. She did a great job marcelling hair. Watching her fascinated me to the point that I knew I wanted to be a beauty operator like her. One time my twin sisters, Mickey and Dutch, were home, so I decided to give Dutch a Marcel. In those days we had coal oil lamps, which made a good source of heat which we used to heat the Marcel iron. I put the iron in the lamp chimney till it got hot, and when I started to do her hair, the handle came off of the iron and burnt me. Of course I dropped it on Dutch's head. She was only a child. I don't know who taught her the famous words she used, but while she was stomping and yelling, she wasn't reciting the Lord's Prayer. The twins and I were always very close and are today. Going back to Aunt Rye one time while I was there, she took a black satin dress of Ione's and cut it off for me. She also gave me some black high heels, jewelry, panties, stockings, and the whole bit. My brother Wayne and twins and I were going to town. Of course I had to wear my fancy dress. We all got out of the car, and while crossing the street I lost my panties. My brother was disgusted, but I just picked them up and kept going. I had a favorite cousin, Grace. She was Dad's brother's daughter. She had 2 sisters and a brother, Sam. Uncle Fred and Aunt Rachel were their parents. Grace made me a red and white polka dot dress. One day Mom caught me out in the yard cutting the circles out of my new dress. I probably got a swat or 2. She wanted to know why I was cutting the polka dots out, and I said I wanted air holes. There are so many fun memories, I'm sure I won't remember them all. My sister Mickey, Dutch, and I slept together. With pillow fights and other things, we had a good time. In the morning before we got up, we had to tell our dreams. I always insisted that I be last to tell mine. I don't know why their dreams were so dull, and mine were always so wonderful. We also had to tell a story. Too bad tape recorders weren't popular then. We would be very famous. Our parents worked hard. Even in those days, it must have been worry clothing 9 kids. However, I can never remember missing a birthday, Christmas, Easter, or even Halloween. We always got something special, maybe a pair of shoes, socks, or underwear, but we were remembered. One Christmas I remember we got a red wagon for Christmas. I'm sure each of us got something in clothes we needed. There was a large frozen place in the yard, and we took turns pulling each other around in the wagon. Mom would buy things ahead of time for special occasions, such as Easter. She would pick up candy and for our baskets weeks ahead, and she would hide them in the closet. Us kids would find the candy and take a few pieces out every day and didn't think it would be missed. There was a great old man who lived in our bunkhouse. His name was Mr. Foreman. He was a retired minister. I remember getting up every morning, putting on my nice dress and shoes to go down and have breakfast with him. He made the best oatmeal and toast I ever ate, even to this day. Mom had a half-brother, Charlie, that was crippled. He had a horse and buggy he treasured. We used to tease him and say his horse had pink eyes. He would get furious. Then there was our Aunt Annie from California. When she would visit us, she would bring a big bag of candy. We thought that being from California, she was from heaven. We really looked forward to her visit. When she went back to California, she would send a box of pomegranates. They were so good, it seems like yesterday. We all had our chores to do, gather the eggs, get the kindling for the fire in the morning. Sometimes we would forget, and when our dad discovered the empty wood box, he would make us get up in pitch dark and go get the kindling. When us girls needed a whipping, our mother would usually leave the honor up to Mom. What did I say? Anyway. When us girls needed a whipping, our dad would usually leave the honor up to Mom. Dutch, Mickey, and I were doing the dishes. Was washing, Mickey was drying, and Dutch was supposed to bring the dishes to the sink. I asked her not to put the dishes in my dishwater, but she just kept on doing it. So I picked up a plate and broke it over her head. My dad worked me over, but good. I guess that is why I never grew. He stunted my growth. We had a shed that Mom set her hens in. After the eggs hatched, she would wash it down with a dip and get rid of the mites. Then she would clean it up, and that would be our playhouse until the next setting. Mom would make us furniture for our playhouse out of wooden crates. At one time, we even had an inside toilet. Talking about chickens brings to mind a terrible incident. We had a lot of baby chicks and turkeys. When it was cold, Mom would bring them in the house and put them in a box behind the stove and keep them covered. When they would get uncovered, they would start chirping and chirping until you covered them up again. This one time, Mom had 5 or 6 baby turkeys behind the cook stove. They got uncovered and started chirping and chirping. Well, I just couldn't handle it. So I took one out, one at a time, laid their head on a chair, picked up a butcher knife, and stopped the chirping. I don't think these turkeys, I had seen my mother and dad butcher turkeys and chickens for the market. I don't believe these turkeys made much money at the market, but I can tell you for sure this old turkey still feels the effects. Our mother and dad went to town about once a month to buy food. They would more or less leave our brother Dell and Sister Audrey in charge. One time when Dell was in charge, he stood us all up in a row and told us the world was coming to an end, and he would shoot us so that we wouldn't suffer as soon as we had dinner. I never ate so much in my whole life. While this was going on, farmers near were burning weeds, and the fire was real noticeable. My brother said that was the beginning of the end. We were all crying, and when we saw cars' headlights coming down the road, he said the stars were falling, and it wouldn't be long now. But it was really our parents coming home. We were so glad to see them, I don't believe we even asked where our bag of candy was. That was always our treat when they came back from shopping. We were a family with lots of love and understanding. We didn't have a lot, but I can never remember going without 3 meals a day and leaving the table hungry. We always loved wash day. My mother washed in a big tub with a washboard, and always on wash day she would put on a big pot of beans and make yeast bread. At noon she would fry some of the dough with plenty of beans and butter. It was heaven. We always had a big garden, chicken, beef, pork, and lamb to eat. Also we had plenty of milk and cream with which to make cheese and butter. I can remember one time when our red wagon came in real handy. Mom and Dad had worked hard on the farm, and everything was looking so good. We had sugar beets, cauliflower, cabbage, melons, corn, beans, and tomatoes. They were so proud of the crop. That afternoon we had a big hailstorm. It beat holes in the roof of our house, and the crop looked like a storm. Small carpet had been laid. The next morning after the storm was over, us kids took our wagon and hauled dead birds out of the yard. There were so many. My young sister Verna and brother Bus were quite small. I don't remember much about them. Verna and I are much closer now and have lots of fun. Buster was the cutest kid I have ever seen, but I don't remember much about him. We went to school. The school bus picked us up in front of our house. Our teacher was a red-headed, freckle-faced, skinny, and mean. Every morning she would go to each desk and check each child's head for lice, ears and hands for dirt, and then she would say, "Stick out your tongue," to see if it was coated. This day, when it was my turn, everything went well until it came to sticking out my tongue. She said, "Becky, stick out your tongue." And I stuck it out a little. And she said, "Becky, stick out your tongue." And I stuck it out a little more. And she really yelled, "Becky, stick out your tongue." That was a big mistake. She probably thought Bessie the cow had taken my place. I really let her have it. But all in all, I was a pretty good kid. My dad's family decided to have a pair of shoes made for me. And they were high-top black shoes with a 2-inch lift on the right foot. My mother didn't want me to wear them, but thought she should. The day I went to school wearing them, I was going into the little girl's restroom, and a little Mexican girl was behind me, and she said, "What's the matter, Becky? You got a sick foot?" Well, I started bawling, and I bawled the whole day. So I never had to wear my shoes again. But anyway, I wish I knew that little girl's name. I would give her a big hug and a kiss. Anyway, our church was having a fundraising supper. And the idea was that the women would make pretty boxes and put in a supper for two. My sister Audrey was going, and Mom made her a pretty pink box with crepe paper and ribbon. Audrey got sick, so I went in her place. Mama filled my pretty box with fried chicken, potato salad, and cheese sandwiches. The box went up and were auctioned off, and the highest bidder got the box and ate the supper with its owner. Some tall man bought my box. I was so nervous. We sat down, and I gave him the package of chicken. I took the package of potato salad and gave him the cheese sandwiches. He was too kind to say maybe we should share. I thought I was doing everything right. I haven't talked about my brother Russ, but it isn't because I forgot him. But you know the old expression, the one you love the most is the one you talk about the least. When we were young, our sister Dutch thought she could break a colt. She was all of 9 years old when she tied a rope around a colt's neck and started to lead it around the yard. Russ threw a sack at the horse and it started to run. It dragged Dutch for a long way before she let go of the rope. Oh well, we didn't think she could break a horse anyway. After all the chores were done and supper was over, all of us would sit around the coal stove with the lights out, and Mom and Dad would tell us stories. Or maybe Dad would sing his favorite song, Strawberry Road. We always wanted Mom to recite the poem Jack, The Road to Heaven. She recited it also, The Babes of Woods. They were such beautiful poems we would all end up crying. After we grew up and many years later, we wanted Mom to make a tape of the poem, but like it often happens, we never got around to it. I have a copy of that poem, but no one can say it like Mom did. Still, there's no place like the country. I feel very fortunate to have been a country gal and to have such good memories of the country. I have grown since Avondale in many ways. The old saying, "It's a small world," is true. My husband Jim lived in Fowler while I was growing up in Avondale. We met years later. Now we are blessed with 7 healthy children, 3 girls and 4 boys. And last year we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary, June the 12th, 1988. It has been good years and many wonderful memories. That's enough.
That's the end.
Is that the end, Mom?
No.
Oh, you did, don't you want to finish it?
Well, okay. My husband Jim was adopted by a Swedish couple, Ole and Lillian Oleson. They brought him to Gypsum, Colorado at the age of 7. My family moved to Gypsum, Colorado, and we lived just a short distance from Jim's home. Jim was 16 years old before we met. We were married in 1938 in Gypsum. Our first son was born in 1939, and we moved to California. In 1941, our second son, Steve, was born. In 1942, Delbert was born. And in 1944, we got our first daughter, Juanita. In 1949, Ole was born. And in 1950, Rebecca was born. And Vivian was born in 1955. All of our children went to Brentwood Elementary School, Uni High, and Paul Revere. In 1989, we decided to move to go to Colorado. I am in my sewing room with all of the great pictures and treasures, trying to decide what is special and what isn't so special. Darn it, everything is special. We bought a 32-acre place in Gunnison, Colorado with 2 great ponds and lots of deer, geese, and geese. We have 2 horses, a cat, and a broken-winged goose. We have been in Gunnison 5 years. Jim just loves every inch of it. We are quite active in the Mount Calvary Lutheran Church. Jim's adopted parents were very good Lutherans, and they taught Jim very well, not only in religion, but also in his father was a great teacher. February 14th, 1996. It is beautiful here in Gunnison, Colorado. This morning I am sitting in my kitchen looking through the window over the pastures and ponds. We had a skating party last week on one of our ponds. It was 10 below zero and a full moon. We had chili, roast hot dogs, marshmallows on a big bonfire, hot chocolate to drink. It was lots of fun. We have lost 2 brothers and 1 sister since I started this story. Brother Dale, Brother Russ, and Sister Margaret.
Are you getting emotional?
That's good.
Well,
Think that's enough?
what do you have on the paper, Mom?
Well, I just put it in 2005, which is now. My husband Jim left us in 2001. It will never be the same. I am moving from Gunnison to Los Angeles again. I'm selling our home, which will never be quite the same without Jim. They've been good years and lots of great memories. The end.
The end. Okay.
I don't know what it sounds like.